useful to know that. Any others?
Self-employment.
All right, okay. Yeah,
Just any useful sources of information about, where you actually are, in corporate life, and you're sort of going through all that sort of process, and you think, actually, I'd like to get out of corporate life altogether and do something completely different.
Yeah.
And it's just knowing where are the sources to go. If you're going to look at it, where do you go to find out about things that are a little bit different, not the run-of-the-mill jobs, whether they be full-time, part-time, whatever.
Well, interesting point. What we're going to do much more than that is, and this is the key to the whole session really, is to explain the process, what sits behind it all, that achieve that success. Yeah.
So just one point, being able to clearly articulate what I have to sell, so particularly in management, where it's different, the skills are somewhat generic, and people are often looking, do you have an underlying technical skill, or I don't have a technical discipline. So it's being able to emphasise how the management skills are really what I sell, and how to sort of draw that out clearly.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, love that. Yeah. Sure, Don will relate to that one as well. Yeah.
I've just retired from the financial services industry.
Right. You look much too young.
Thank you very much. I've just retired, and I'm looking to move possibly into an overseas environment.
Right.
And trying to see what I can do, what the monetary sector.
Right. So you're looking to use your time very differently.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, the process is going to be very similar. So great. Okay. I think that's plenty enough. If there's any other ones that are completely different, let's just hear one or two maybe. Any final ones? No. Okay. Right. Well, that's a really good sort of start point. What I'd like to do is to show you a picture, and what I'd like to know from you is, what do you see?
Find the island. Find the island. It's find out.
He's looking for an island, you say?
Yeah.
Right, okay, interesting. Anybody else? Scott?
Stormy clouds behind that person in the picture.
Stormy clouds behind him. Right,
Windy.
interesting.
Windy.
She's got a vision.
Got a vision, great.
She's broken free from the corporate life. She's having the time of her life.
Oh, never ever had that one.
She's got the steering wheel, so she knows she's going to steer a car.
Right, it's interesting everyone says it's she. I still maintain this is a bloke. But anyway, we won't go down that way.
We're looking at her.
Okay.
She's in control.
Why do you think I'm... Yeah, so,
We're looking at her as opposed to where she's going.
right, okay. Why do you think I'm showing this, highlighting this picture?
To indicate you need to have a long-term vision.
Yeah, but there's, you're right, there's another reason though.
Mine's a bad journey on a rough sea.
I hope it's not.
You have to be in control. You have to be in control.
Yeah, true.
Control of the navigation in terms of direction she wants to go.
Right, okay. It's all about this. Is it a threat or an opportunity? Okay? Now all of those who are facing redundancy or been through redundancy, this is what you go through. And saying I went through it 7 years ago, I think it was now. Don was... what,
19.
was it that long now? Really?
When I was in
Julie, I know she's been through it a couple of times, and then the wife at the back there, she's about to face it in about 6 weeks' time. But everybody sees life differently. It's a threat or an opportunity. And the thing that I learned above all else is that redundancy can be a massive opportunity. And that's what we explore. And not just redundancy, because it's not just about redundancy, this is exploring career change in general. So, linked to that, let's look at some top tips. So those who wanted some guidance, here you go, some very quick fire stuff. Now firstly, the reason these are in red is because these are almost like the warning ones. So any of you who are facing redundancy, you may have an opportunity to tackle some of these. Those where it might suddenly come to bite you, then please bear in mind these. Which is why number 1 point, be prepared for it. Okay, and the reason I'm saying that is I'm sure we've all been there in organisations where there's restructuring going on, and the key managers or directors keep disappearing into a room, scurrying away, and it's all sort of hush-hush, secret squirrel. And you start to get the feeling that something's not quite right. And then the rumours start flying around. So when you see that sort of environment taking shape, then I would suggest be on your guard and start to know your rights. Now it's interesting, we've had some discussions while we're having some food earlier on. Do yourself a favour, don't assume that whoever you work for, regardless of who they are, whether it's the local council, any other public sector organisation or a global PLC, don't assume that they will do things properly. Yeah? Because I do a load of redundancy outplacement support for companies and so on when they're laying off staff, and Don and I always say we're the cavalry because we come in and we mop up when everyone's sort of looking to help move their career forward. And I would say in a huge percentage of cases it's handled very badly, and employers often try to cut corners. I remember about a year or so ago a contact of mine who's also a coach. She's not a career coach, but she does other strands of coaching. But that was more her sort of spare time job. In her day job, she worked for quite a well-known company, and they just said to her one day, right, okay, I'm sorry, but time's up, and basically you got to go. Didn't really give her a very good rationale. And we're going to give you a month's pay, off you go. And I remember she contacted me and said, you know, can they do this sort of stuff? And I said, well, I'm not an expert in employee law, although I do know enough to know that that's not the right way to go about it. And I suggested she got some advice. So do yourself a favour, if you're uncertain of whether your organisation, your company, whoever it is treating you fairly, go and seek advice. You don't necessarily have to pay for it at that stage. You can seek independent advice and just make sure that they're doing things properly. And you may be in a situation where you can negotiate a deal. A lot of people think, I've been told that's what it is, there's my piece of paper, that's what I'm going to get. But often there's scope, especially if you've been in the organisation a while. You can often negotiate more payment in lieu of notice. Maybe you go on gardening leave, as they call it, and you're not working, but you're actually getting paid. And I've got a client who I just started work with last week, who's basically negotiated a fantastic, and it's the next point, she's negotiated brilliantly a fabulous sum of budget for her outplacement career development support, whatever you want to call it, and also some personal counselling, because she's going through all sorts of other traumas at the same time. So it is possible, but a lot of people just think that's the deal, I've got to go along with it. But say it's not, you know, it's not always the case. But, you know, it's like everything in life. Don't ask, you don't get.